Hi, Kev.
Good morning. You guys now make us get up early to talk to you.
Well, I kind of think you're an early riser anyway, right? I mean, come on, 8:30 in the morning for you. That's not. What time did you get up this morning?
6:30.
6:30. And is that something you pop out of bed? You got an alarm? What's the story?
You know, closer it gets to 50, the more it's less of a pop out of bed and more of an alarm.
Oh, because I always think that the older you get, the earlier you wake up.
Yeah, no, that doesn't work for me. But, being 3 days out from the season, you get up a lot easier.
Yeah, I would think so. Kevin, I thought your letter to the season ticket holders was really great. I mean, just the excitement for the season is one thing, but sharing with everybody, hey, when you come to SoFi Stadium this Sunday, like we will all be there, there's so much more to do around the stadium. And I thought really the end of the letter, which I appreciated receiving, was, hey, this is the way I received it. Look, we got 8 home games, man. That's all we got is 8 home games. Hopefully there'll be more. But one home game in particular is late against San Francisco. Come on out, fans, and don't give up those tickets. So I love the letter. What was the thought process behind getting it to everybody?
Look, I think there's always, when you start the season, the fans have excitement. There's always just a chance to reconnect. This is one of the most exciting weeks of the year on the football calendar. Week 1, it's the most overhyped, overanalyzed game of the year. And then you add in, though, it's the first time you truly get our Rams family back at SoFi Stadium together. It's the first time they've been together really since the Arizona game pre-Christmas. When you look back through preseason, obviously, unfortunately, we lost the wild card game to Arizona, but you get your family back. And I think there was also, a reflection amongst our entire organization. This is the start of year 10, and, taking a look at, not just the product on the field, but the fan base, the development at Hollywood Park, what's going on at Woodland Hills, some of the successes over the past 10 years and some of the opportunities we still have going forward here in Los Angeles. So I think it was, a lot of excitement around this team, which you feel in our building each day, a little bit reminiscing about the past 10 years, and let's just go beat the Texans and have a great day Sunday.
Kevin Demoff, the president of your LA Rams, with us here on Sedano and Kap. So, Kevin, it's interesting. I saw the story that you did with Bill Plaschke and the conversation that you had with him in the LA Times. And the takeaway I had there is, which is, something we've discussed here on the show plenty, and we talked about in the preseason too, which is, yes, quarterback is incredibly important. It's the most important position, arguably, in sports, and we all understand that. But I do think it's a true testament to what you guys have done as an organization, that you've built a complete team. You and I and Cappy referenced this during the preseason when we met with you there, where your defense last year cost less than $24 million, your starting defense, which is insane. And, the way you guys have constructed this roster with Sean and Les and everyone involved is really just incredibly impressive. And just, people don't realize how much goes into that. That is a year-over-year build. That's not just a one-year thing. But just if you can kind of take us inside the mindset of the team as you guys have built this particular roster over time.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, George. Because one of the things that has always probably been true about us is that, for a long time we had really elite talent at the top, but always were relying on youngsters for depth. And, if you have a year where you go through some injuries, that could derail you. And I even saw an article this week that said the Rams were top-heavy. And I think that's the thing that we're most excited. This team is the deepest team we've had. And I think I've said a couple places, it's the most talented. And I don't necessarily mean that, we have more Pro Bowlers or, maybe more elite talent. But 1 through 53, this is the most competitive, deepest roster that we've had. And when you look at all of the positions, you feel like you can absorb an injury or two and feel pretty good about the people coming in and replacing them. And that's been, great credit to Les and the scouts and a couple of really good drafts that we stacked on top of each other, to Sean and the coaches for developing those players, and then for still being able to go out and make strategic acquisitions in free agency. You get a Devontae Adams, you get a Poona Ford, you even get a, Nate Landman, who's going to start for us at middle linebacker and call the plays and wear the green dot, kind of was a tossed-aside player from Atlanta. And I think those are the ways you try to build a team so that 17 weeks is a grind. And you got to get through it. You got to be healthy. You're going to have some injuries. But this team hopefully is built to withstand that. And, look, this is a very competitive NFC. I can make a case for, 11 to 12 teams making deep runs in the playoffs if you took the optimistic case. So we're going to have a gauntlet. It's going to be a fun year. But, I think so much of the storyline has been about Matthew's back. And not that Matthew's not a great player and important, but we feel good about Jimmy and Stetson if Matthew is to miss a game or two. But we feel really good about the 53 players on this roster on the whole.
Yeah, and Kevin, I think that besides the actual roster itself, I think the coaching staff, and this is something we also talked about during preseason training camp, having the staff be pretty much intact from a year ago, that leads to a familiarity, the staff with the players with the staff, et cetera. So I think that's sort of an underestimated part of the story. What do you think about that?
Oh, I think it's a hugely underestimated part of the story. That, this team on the whole, there was not a lot of turnover, I would say by NFL standards year over year. Most of our key starters and players from last year are coming back. Yes, you lose a Cooper Kupp, who's a franchise icon, but you're able to get a Devontae Adams in. But, I thought even the strides you saw from Chris Shula last year, always had high hopes for him, kind of as he and the young defense learned. By the end of the year, we were certainly one of the most explosive defenses, in the league, and 17 sacks in the playoffs, which tied a record for the first two games. I think highlighted that. Now, you don't pick up where you left off. You got to go build it again. You got to go get better. But I think Chris, with another year under his belt of calling plays, the defense returning, basically as is, and those young guys getting better with Jared Verse and Kobe Turner and Braden Fisk and Byron Young, up front, that's what I think gives us so much excitement, that this is still a very young team at many spots, especially on defense. And they're just going to get better and better. I saw a statistic, I think it was on ESPN or somewhere, that, we spend, you mentioned what we spend is the least on defense. The second least is the Eagles. So maybe there's, something there that, that is a positive.
Kevin Demoff, the president of the Rams, with us here on Sedano and Kap. So, one of the things that's been kind of the calling card, too, for the Rams organization under Sean McVay is, we've heard about the McVay tree, right? How it continues to grow. So many guys in different places that have spent time with you guys in this organization that have gone on to other things and head coaching jobs. But that doesn't even count the coordinators. Like this week, Nick Caley, the offensive coordinator for the Texans, is someone that you guys had on your coaching staff. He was your passing game coordinator. He was your tight ends coach. Again, it just goes to show you, not only are you guys building great players and developing players, but you're doing a hell of a job developing coaches. I mean, I know in the last preseason game I did, which was preseason game number 2 against the Chargers, right? Like Aubrey was coaching that game. And I just think the way you guys handle those guys, too, is something that should be lauded.
Well, that's a great credit to Sean and everybody who's been here. Nick got an amazing opportunity. I give him credit. He had an opportunity 2 years ago to go to whether it was New England as a coordinator or Seattle as a coordinator and turned them down because he didn't know that he was ready. He was very happy where he was. And he got an opportunity this year to go to Houston with someone like Nick Caserio, who he's worked with before, with C.J. Stroud. You look at him and you say, yeah, that's a great opportunity. We'd love you, to go partake in that. And he's deserving, and he's going to be, a worthwhile adversary. But it seems like everywhere you go in the league now, you look up and down, the games. You start with this one, and it's there. You have Nick Caley. Next week you see John Fossil, in Tennessee. You get to, Jacksonville and Liam Cohen, and you go up and down. You're like, I feel like, there's a familiar face everywhere. Now that Sean and Les have been here 8-9 years, and whether it's James Gladstone and Brad Holmes or the coaches, there are a lot of Rams alumni in this league, and I think that's a great testament to what those two have built organizationally.
Yeah. Hey, Kevin, I want to go back to something we started with, which is, the 10 years of the Rams being back in L.A. Man, it seems like those 10 years just flew by because I can remember going back, to 2014, 2015, and, all the talk about who was going to get L.A. It's incredible what has happened here in the last 10 years. And one of the things in this email that you send to season ticket holders is all of the community involvement. And that's what an NFL team is supposed to be in any community. And sometimes it could come off as, I don't know, I mean, like, hey, these guys came from St. Louis, they came back, and Kevin was a part of that. But it sounds very genuine and sincere, and I think most of that, at least the way I read it, is the community involvement is important to you because, Kevin, you may have brought the Rams back to L.A., but you grew up in L.A. You're from L.A. So for me, with the way I read it, all this community talk is important to you because you are a native of Los Angeles. At least that's the way I read it. What do you have to say about that?
That's a small part of it. I look at it as that's the responsibility of this team. And when you come and you build the world's greatest stadium, it's not just about the stadium. It's about 365 days a year giving back to your community. And I think one of the questions always before a team returned to Los Angeles was, does Los Angeles need the NFL? And I think the community involvement is a way of reminding people that it's not just about the games and the fandom and fantasy football and Sundays. What an NFL team can bring to your community in moments of need, as we've seen during the fires. I think about two of the most uplifting moments we've had in this organization were coming out of tragedy. In 2018, the Monday night game against Kansas City, this year's wild card game against Minnesota, where the joy that this team provided this community when it was hurting, certainly was a step to rebuilding and to starting over. And I think when you look at NFL teams, it's not just about, I can watch them on Sunday, I can be part of it. It's, can we make this a better community? Can we make Los Angeles a better place to live? Can we use the power of the NFL and our brand to uplift those Angelinos who need it most? And I think that's where our organization gets excited, because if we're doing our job on the field, we're providing joy, on 17 and hopefully 20 Sundays a year. But what about the 345 other days? Are we using the power of being the Los Angeles Rams, of being, the number 2 valued franchise in the NFL, one of the biggest in the world and the biggest city, to make Los Angeles a better community? I don't know that that's about where you grow up. I think that's about the responsibility we have as leaders in this community.
Kevin Demoff, the president of the Rams. Texans this weekend at SoFi Stadium. Week 1 is here. Of course, you can check out all the action all season long here on the home of the LA Rams, 710 ESPN. Kevin, always a pleasure, man. Thanks for joining us on our new venture here in the morning, and hopefully we'll chat more soon.
And we'll see you Sunday.
It's a great way to start the mornings. George, thanks for the help in preseason. And
thank you.
Still have a great year, guys.
Yes, sir. Thank you
See
again.
you on Sunday, man. Pregame. Absolutely.
There he is, Kevin Demoff.
That was wonderful.